I move on, giving the floor to the experts from the tourism sector.
Yes, good morning. And my name is Cinzia De Marzo, and with my colleague Dolores Ordóñez, we are the external expert for the tourism sector. And in our presentation, we would like to present, of course, in a very short time, what already we found in preliminary desk research on existing information related to the tourism SME status quo for the EAP countries. So we would like to present more or less what is the state of play for the tourism SMEs. In the same time, to show you also a tourism ecosystem overview and what are the common challenges, tourism trend, international arrivals, hospitality and services, opportunity to be further exploited, and also synergies, because we saw that with other sectors, for example, wine, or also for the creative industry and cultural industry, there are several complementarities that we can foster, we can boost. So maybe Dolores, you can go back to the previous, sorry for the preliminary, yes, just to show regarding each country what is the more or less the status quo. For example, based on the INSEPT reports and the general INSEPT reports, we were also looking at the most updated and figures and data coming from official statistics. Of course, we should highlight that not each country has the same level of data collecting. Therefore, there are some discrepancies that maybe should be tackled regarding the way of collecting information, and also making more dynamic all the let's say the strategies that the countries they have to put in place. You can go a step in the next slide, please. Thank you. And still, regarding our preliminary desk research, we were also taking into account the feedback coming from the interviews took from the tourism, key tourism stakeholders in the countries, for example, the business, hospitality, restaurants, other tourist services, and the feedback collected from the interviews from the business support organization. So meaning that we really want to make more alive this kind of desk research, not only considering the figures and the data, but also more related to the impact that those stakeholders they can consider related to tourism in the countries. And of course, this sector, as you might know, is very transversal, and where there are the tourism SMEs involved, we have to consider also the environment where the tourism SMEs are working on, and what is the context, and what are the relation between the tourism SMEs among themselves, but also among the public sector. So this is something that we should also consider. You can go to the next step. Thank you. And when we want to see the tourism ecosystem overview, we can have a look for each country. As you see, that there are improving number of international arrivals, for example, in Armenia, or also for Azerbaijan, there is an increasing, let's say, improvement of the internationalization of the SMEs. And this is also a very strategic priority for the country. We are very focusing from the point of view of the tourism SMEs in our approach for this presentation. You can go for the next. Thank you. And we are just trying to explain country by country, but in a very scientific way, also because the presentation will be available, I'm sure will be published in the website of Eurochamp for the project. So Belarus also is a country that must rationalize public expenditures, and it's important also to to the public resources that are spent in the right areas. And for example, in the tourism sector, they need to invest more. And in Georgia, also, we see that in 2018, the number of SMEs in percentage was increasing over 64% of business employment. So, and that's especially for the tourism sector is very important. Of course, now we have this problem for the COVID impact, but we are talking about figures coming from 2 years ago. You can go for the next one. For Moldova and Ukraine also, more or less the situation is similar. And what is also important is also for Moldova, for example, the use of ecological criteria for also for looking at the business side. And for the Ukraine, SMEs are also increasing the number, and then the GDP of the country is also based on the 49% of the value added coming from the business sector. You can go for the next one. Thank you, Dolores. And when we want to see what are the common challenges, because of course, all those countries, they are facing similar problems, similar issues, but they have also great potential that we want to further exploit. And in terms of common challenges regarding the tourism trends, for example, in Armenia, in February 2020, has been declared one of the world's fastest growing tourist destinations, according to UNWTO, the United Nations World Tourism Organization, which is a very great deal for Armenia. So this is, we are talking about this year, just before the pandemic crisis. Regarding Azerbaijan, I would just like to highlight that in our tourism consortium, we have as a partner the chambers from Azerbaijan and also from Ukraine. We don't cover all the EAP countries, but we know that we have a good relation, so we can establish anyway a very strong cooperation, even if in our consortium we cover only 2 countries out of 6. And also regarding Azerbaijan, so the number of international tourist arrivals are growing in the last 5 years. So this is something that we should really consider as a must. And we have to start from this point when we have to establish new strategies looking for the future tourism in those countries in terms of collaboration with European SMEs. We also want to show, you can go the next step, in the next slide, please. We also want to show that will be, when I will give the floor to my colleague Dolores, that we look for also possible alignments of the policy framework, European policy framework regarding, I have been listening before, the new Green Deal, the circular economy, sustainability, innovation. Those are the key components which are important for European side, but also for the Eastern countries. So regarding the, as I said, the tourism trends for Belarus and Georgia, you see also that the trend is similar. So there is an increasing number of foreign visitors. So for example, starting in 2017, we have also to consider the issue of visa issue for the passport. So you need to get the visa to simplify the procedure to go to visit in those countries. Georgia also in 2019 has taken the 4th position as the world's most fast-growing tourist destinations, again, according to UNWTO. The next, please. And to conclude about Moldova and Ukraine, regarding the tourism trends, again, we see that there is an improved tourism flows in Moldova. Also regarding the, in terms of the diversification of the tourism demand and the tourist products, which is quite important, especially for this time. I remember that during the plenary has been introduced the sentence of resilience. Resilience is very important, so to invest in resilience, and for the new tourism products that we have to develop, resilience is a must also for those countries. So currently also in Ukraine, there is maybe this a little bit discrepancy compared with the other countries, an underdeveloped sector, but still it's still part of the GDP for tourism is still part of an important component of the economy. You can go the next, thank you. And still under the framework of the common challenges, but I want to go much more faster now. The international arrivals as well are growing. You see in Armenia as well in Azerbaijan, it's the same. So you can go for the next, thank you. And Belarus, Georgia, and Ukraine also, you see, as I said, we are still talking about the common challenges, there is increasing number of trips and also visitors. We are talking about incoming tourism in those countries. So we have to really understand what they are looking for, what is the main expectation for those countries, what they want to do, the tourism SMEs, the tourism establishments, the travel agencies. Do they want to invest more in incoming tourism, so attracting tourism from other countries, from Europe, for example, or do they want to invest more in outgoing tourism? This is something that it should be very well clarified, and especially when we want to establish collaboration, and also we want to develop the actions like B2B, which is very commercial. It's the real business when you have to make agreements to promote tourism packages. So hospitality and services is another important component of course, of the tourism sector. In this regard, it's important to see that there is a very great connection with the landscape, the tourism offer, considering the rural areas that they are in the countries, the ecological environment, so natural landscapes besides the cultural heritage. And this is something that can become a very strong attraction for all the countries. And this is another bridge that we can establish in terms of synergies with the other sectors. You can go for the next one. And about Georgia, what we would like to highlight, which is quite advanced for Georgia, for example, they put it in place. They have a vision. The government of Georgia already in 2015 launched a Georgia Tourism 2025 plan strategy. So they were looking for a strategic vision for 10 years, which is very important for the tourism sector. And in terms of establishment, it's interesting to see that Ukraine, they have a highest number of bed places in hotels in 2018. So the next, thank you. To highlight the opportunities that should be further exploited, again, starting from what they have, what is the treasure, what is the enrichment that all those countries, they still have to explore. And as a tourist, we need, myself also, I would love to visit those treasures. And and you see, it's something that really needs to be better promoted and to become an attraction, a very high level attraction. Also because Armenia, for example, they have the 3 World Heritage Sites listed by UNESCO, and Azerbaijan also, there is the 9 national parks. So it's a very bad, there is a very different offer, but very attracting and very, very multi-dimensional. So in Belarus, for example, besides the natural resources, there is also there are also protected natural sites and rural regions, and also the capital Minsk is also a unique. It's a city which is embracing a very unique brand of modernity. In Georgia, there are also 3 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and the Caucasus Mountain, everybody knows. I mean, the Caucasus, it's very well known. Moldova also, they have this is very interesting, very attracting underground cellars and towns. Wine, that's the reason why we would like also to see the synergies, wine storage facilities and wine processing factories, so which is connected with also the cultural heritage monuments hosted in the city, in the capital Chisinau, for example. In Ukraine, there are the Carpathian Mountains. There are also nice places by the Black Sea, ruins, ancient castles, historical parks. So there is a very huge potential that needs to be still exploited in those countries and to be very well known. I will just go to this synergy, and then I will give the floor to my colleague Dolores in order to complete our presentation. So synergies, again, we would like to stress this concept of synergies because tourism is very transversal. The nature of tourism is transversality, and is developing a different connection with other sectors. In particular, regarding the sector which are involved in our project, Europe for Business, we see a very fast track related to creative and cultural industry and tourism. Why? Because, for example, in Azerbaijan, they have already a national film commission, and they also launch also the first creative hubs. In Belarus, there are a lot of programs to train operators from the creative and cultural sector. In Georgia and in Armenia also to entrepreneurship and business practices. In Georgia, there are also, it's a policy from the government to support the cultural creative industries. And there is this initiative, Creative Georgia Initiative, established in 2018, the next. And then to conclude, in Moldova and Ukraine also, in Moldova, according to the Compendium of Cultural Policies and Trends, there are also these priority actions in the National Strategy for Development of Culture 2020, focusing on cultural industries and film industry. Ukraine, the cinema development is one of the priorities within the framework of promotion and of national cultural products. So you see, it's very, very strictly related. And then about the wine, as I said, the wine and cultural heritage and cultural creative industry, for us, from me and my colleague, we should be more reinforced this kind of collaboration. And regarding wine and tourism, the world's oldest known wine cellar is based in south of Armenia, which is hosting factories using still these oak barrels to store the wine. Azerbaijan is located on the Caspian Sea, and that's just south of Georgia, and they have a long history of wine making. The next, Georgia also is one of the oldest wine manufacturing in the world, and the wine is produced by thousands of small farmers. In Moldova, they have a huge area of vineyard, but also the remaining part is also related to vineyards planted in villages to make homemade wine. And this is also kind of attraction for the tourists to see how those families through generations, so they are still making homemade wine. In Ukraine, the sector is struggling to recover, and since 2015, the vineyards and wine producers find solution to promote their wine by organizing tourism wine festivals as a brand. Okay, so I will stop here, and I will give the floor to my colleague Dolores, who will continue until the end of our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. I will try to make a general overview of the second part, since the time is running. But I think it's important to mention which are the economic barriers for the economic operator that we have found when making all the analysis. Of course, you can find a more deeper analysis in the documents we have already prepared and will be available for everybody. But I think it's important to mention, and I'm not going to read through this, but some points that are very, very important. So it's the fact first of security. Security is a main issue for the tourism sector. Before COVID, it was just this physical security to feel secure when you were visiting the different destinations, but now we have to mix it also with these health and sanitary reasons. So it is very important for these destinations to work also in these pillars, because the overall security, the overall sense of security will be a big step towards an increase of the quality tourism that the regions should offer to attract more tourism. So it is also important, all the part of the typology of companies, entities, VSOs that are supporting the tourism industry. It is important, it's very important, this kind of project, just to learn, to exchange, to see what has been successful in other destinations in order to learn how to generate this governance, which is so important. In this project, we are all the time speaking about connecting companies, connecting entities. This is a very important, and also the word that also Cynthia mentioned before, where the generating synergies. It is very important to learn from the others to increase the quality of tourism, but not only the tourism offer, but also the tourism infrastructure. We had some recommendations for the tourism business growth, and as Dirk mentioned in the presentation for the textile with the picture of the DG growth, tourism has been one of the hittest industry all over the world due to COVID. And this is very important to take into account because now the tourism recovery is based mainly in digitization and in sustainability. They are all the time speaking about this digitization, sustainability, and resilience for assuring a successful tourism recovery. And our recommendations are also aligned with these recommendations that depart from the European Commission on how the BSOs, the SME should be supported in terms of these innovative marketing campaigns. So you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, you are not going to receive tourists to visit it. So it's very important to dedicate efforts in these marketing campaigns. So these manuals and best practices, it's very important to keep this word sustainability and to have an holistic approach, because the tourism sector is composed by a large fragmentation of entities that are generating the tourism value chain. And this means from the very small company to the very large tour operators. So this means that we really need to generate this overall picture in which the synergies and approaches are together. Then we need to really help to this construction of the associations in a sustainable way. And very important, and this is something that we have seen in all the countries we have analyzed, it's related to the regulatory frameworks. It's something that has been also mentioned by the colleagues in the other sectors. Certifications, the validity of these certifications, and which are the regulations to give security to the investors, to the operators, to the companies that are working in the tourism sector, that they are having legal frameworks that allow to implement correctly all the tourism activities. So when we have this general overview, and I think some of the words have already been mentioned by Cynthia, so I'm not going to repeat, but only to see how these 6 countries have a large potential, a very big potential for the tourism activity. They are not destinations of mass tourism. They are not very well known, so this is a big opportunity to make them know to the other visitors which are the possibilities to visit it. They have a lot of possibilities in terms of rural tourism, mountain tourism, coastal tourism. So any kind of tourism that be possible in a destination can be found in these countries. It's just a matter to organize it, to structure it, and to give the legal framework to be able to promote it. And something that is fundamental, and has been also mentioned before as one of the pillars of the European Commission for the reactivation of the tourism industry, but we have to take into account that digitization is something that doesn't come with COVID. The tourist is digital before COVID, but now COVID has accelerated this need of digitization. And this makes that the BSOs and all this kind of project that EU4BCC has to contribute to the digital transformation of the destinations. But when we are speaking about digital transformation, it's for the SMEs, but also for the destination as itself, for the territory. It's very important to involve also the public administration to increase productivity, introduce these innovative technologies, and to achieve this digital transformation. Of course, to be aligned with the Green Deal strategy, to include this part of sustainability is fundamental. There are a lot of priorities related with the tourism recovery that are directly linked with the European Green Deal strategy, and all these countries working in the sustainability from the development of the new tourism activities related to wine, to rural development, gastronomy, and so on, should be taken into account the Green Deal. Just to finalize, also to mention that United Nations has promoted the Agenda 2030. And although in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, there are only 3 that mention explicitly the word tourism, At the end, tourism is an overall industry that can connect the 17 Sustainable Development Goals and can contribute actively to achieve them. So it's very important when defining the tourism activity in each of the destinations to take into account which are the Sustainable Development Goals that the countries are tackling. And that's all. Here's some open questions that we leave, but since we are with a little bit of delay, I stop here and we continue later on. Thank you.